It's amazing. It usually takes, someone's got to start. Why do you suppose we're like that?
Do we have to wait for somebody else to start it?
Yeah.
I don't know, like I don't know. We all want to dance somewhere.
We do.
We do, but it's just this thing that's like, I don't know, maybe what is it? Checks and balances on a scale of, I don't know, is it maybe we don't want, maybe our desire to dance is not as great as our desire to not look stupid.
That's right.
Right? Which is inaccurate. Right? It's like there's nothing better than seeing someone dance like they just don't care,
Yeah.
right?
The greatest.
Right? And then so what's our problem, right? It's like it's so inaccurate. Our thoughts are generally just so inaccurate.
Because we don't want to look on like Elaine on that Seinfeld episode.
We don't want to look like Elaine?
Remember that?
Oh, is that right? I didn't see
And
that.
she's just like totally like
She's a really bad
not
dancer.
about the music.
She hasn't
She's
she's got no rhythm.
Like this.
hilarious. Yeah, like she's just doing all these weird moves, right? So it's just like we don't want to look.
So we have Elaine phobia.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we do.
And yeah, who cares? Like it's nice when you get to that point where who cares? I'm doing it
I thought she was a good
anyway.
Aha, you see, there we go.
See? That's right.
You probably represent millions of people. You probably think, well, I don't get it, I was just a great dancer.
She's having fun.
Yeah, we're so wrong about so many things. Yeah, I have a friend, a couple of friends at work, and we've been working together for quite a while. So you just friendship develops, right? You see someone every single day, right? and I don't know. Everyone's, you sort of get to know them deeper and deeper, and you enjoy them more and more. And one of the fellows, I don't know, he's quite, he's really the only one in the crew that has tantrums. He's 50 something, but he's the one that can fly off the handle, right? And I came to work the other day, and I'm not going to say names, but the one fellow, the newer guy, comes up to me and says, you know, John, I spent some private time, because I was alone for a full day with this other guy, because I noticed something about him. It was really interesting to me. And I said, what's that? He goes, I noticed that he thinks that everything that he thinks is correct. He believes that everything he thinks is correct. And I just started laughing, and he goes, I think he'd be a very interesting specimen for a psychiatrist. And of course I started howling, right? So perfect. And he said to me, I'm glad you think I'm funny, because my wife sure doesn't. Right? But it just got me thinking a lot about that, how we can, this is the beauty of meditating, of gaining some ability to be able to watch those kinds of things coming and going. And then if your practice is going well, first, if your practice is going well, first of all, it's going to suck. The first thing that's going to happen is you're going to gain enough stillness and presence of mind to notice all the ways that we're trying to manipulate our world, and trying to manipulate and put certain labels onto scenarios that please us, that make us feel better about ourselves, and in a constant stream. And you start, and it's not, when you start to notice that, it's not like you're different. You haven't changed, you've just noticed. And so it feels like you got worse. And a lot of times, any spiritual practitioner that I have come across, and I've had this experience myself, when they start practicing in earnest, they come to me invariably and say, I'm experiencing all this crazy stuff. And I'm like, great, this is really good news. This is, you're doing the work, which hopefully they find encouraging. And then you go through, and then if you're continuing to practice well, then you begin to have a sense of humor about it, because then you begin to see that you never really had any control over it anyways, in a sense of the way we think we have control or want to have control. And you can gain enough presence of mind to be a witness and laugh. And then not only can you laugh at your own insanity, but also find amusement and embrace the insanity of others as everyone tries to figure out this crazy deal that's going on around here, right? Everyone is trying to navigate through this insanity that, and most of our assumptions are wrong, right? Most of our conclusions are wrong about the things that we do, in the sense of not like outright wrong. As in, sure, yeah, okay, 2 + 2 is 4, and not those, but wrong in the sense of what the conclusion will be in the long run, because most of us aren't really aware that we're chasing this goal of some kind of happiness that can last, and our conclusions are wrong about the things that we're trying to do to make it happen. That's where we're mistaken, mainly. So we don't ask ourselves the right questions about the objects that we think are going to give us happiness or are causing us pain. We don't ask the right questions. We just make the mistake of assuming that these projections or these thought patterns or this wash of our lens onto the world, we mistake that for the world itself, and we forget that we're constantly tainting the thing with our own perception of it, that we can't just change. This is there's freedom there if you can get that humor. And because when you embark on a spiritual path, it's not like, unless you're some kind of extraordinary reincarnated, like enlightened being that's just so, or almost enlightened being that's so close in the karma, your karma is so insane that you're just ready to pop anyway. If you're not like that, you're not going to go from being completely like oblivious to the way reality is working, and completely oblivious to how you're like manipulating your world. You're not going to go from that to being completely clear and free and like, okay, no more mental afflictions. It's just not going to happen like that. It's going to be a gradual process. So first there's this pain of, oh my God, look what I'm doing in the world. And then there's, look what I'm doing in the world, right? Because you get some separation. And then in and around that time, you begin to split. You begin to experience two of you. One of you is gaining this peace. There's a party that's starting to gain this stillness. It's starting to gain love. It's starting to see people differently. It's starting to want to give. It's starting to want to love. It's starting to really rejoice when you see someone do something good. It's starting to be less concerned about itself and more concerned about others. It's starting to be really like horrified when someone else is suffering. This is starting to build, and it's getting, love is rising, peace is rising. This is happening. At the same time, the other part of you that's dying is fighting for its life, you know, and you get to watch it. You get to watch it. What about me? What about me? What about me? What about me? You know, this. I want this. I want this. I want this. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. And that's kind of a wild time, because then you can feel almost like you're going crazy, almost like you're ready to go into the loony bin. And okay, this is what they mean when they say I'm going crazy. And there's a time of equal, and then there's a time of where the lover gains power, more and more power, and then the hater loses power, and then finally it's done. Finally something happens, and the part of you that only wanted for itself is dead. Is no longer even there. It doesn't even, you know. And when that happens, you will experience a version of yourself that you can't even imagine if you're not there. It's another being. It's a whole other way of being in the world, and you are actually at that point living in a different world. You're actually living in a different universe than you were before that, because you have gained this ability to project that love outwards, and you're a blessing at that point. You're a blessing to the world at that point. But how do you know? And this is what we strive for, but we don't know it. Generally, we strive for that. You know, it's like we're not going to be happy. Like it won't matter. It won't matter how much. Man, it's amazing. You look like this movie, this actress, this famous actress. I just keep seeing it over and over again. Now I finally know. Have you guys seen?
I've been told many times. I know none of them because I have.
Have you seen the Lord of the Rings? You know,
Blanchett. Yes.
not Kate Blanchett. Not Kate Blanchett. It's the actress that falls in love with Aragorn, and then she ends up being with Boromir.
Is that the Lord of the Rings?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings, and she ends up staying in the
Elves.
castle. That's a spitting image.
You're an elf.
No, not an elf. Human.
I like that.
Human.
I like that.
Human.
I thought they were elves.
Wesley's. Yeah, you getting it?
Something nightly?
Not Keira
No,
Knightley.
no.
You're thinking of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Not the one with dark hair, like Aerosmith's daughter.
No, you're thinking about Liv Tyler.
Liv Tyler. Okay.
No, she's spinning image. It's amazing.
I'm
Yeah.
happy.
Now I have to see.
I have no idea.
I just
That's so
I had to get it out because it was.
That's good.
Yeah. So how do we get that? You know, and how do we get our foothold into that where that's what we're shooting for versus the other things? Like, how do we gain this place where we're at home, no matter where we are, where we're at home with not being in control in the moment, where we're at home with embracing the continual arising projection of our world, where we're comfortable there instead of like having some kind of resistance to it, and like all discontentment, you know, it's all like it's a resistance to what is, and it's, you know, it's funny, like that whole, you know, yeah, that guy, you know, he didn't deserve that. He sure deserved that. Or he didn't deserve that. Or a fellow I worked with the day, he had like, he hit his head on something, the concrete truck. That's right. He hit his head on the chute, and then the lady said, "Well, I guess I deserved it." And I said, "Yeah, I guess you did." And well, he didn't like that, right? He's like, "Well, I guess you did," right? and I thought, well, I mean, think about it. What could you ever get that you didn't deserve? How could you can't really say that you have ever received anything you didn't deserve, because you deserve it. You got it, right? So how do we put ourselves in position to deserve enlightenment? How do we put ourselves into position to deserve no more pain, no more like mental angst, no more jealousy, no more like I wish I had that boyfriend, or I wish I had that girlfriend, or they must be happy because they have money, or like how do we go from that to just being completely at peace and happy with whatever situation we're in? Well, we have to figure out why we're not like that. And that's why we're doing these meditations, is because we are making a brave journey into being able to notice what we assume about our feelings and about how it is that we associate these movements of our prana and these physical sensations as being something that's permanent, right? Something that I am, something that is either happiness itself or discontentment itself. And especially, eventually down the road, hopefully, that we assume is associated with an outside object, and we make the assumption, we make the mistake that my happiness is tied into some outside object. Right? You look at you get a certain feeling from looking at a loved one, and then we make the mistake of thinking that that feeling is coming from that person. And so we try to keep looking at that picture, oh, I'd like to marry that feeling I'm having. And then something happens. Well, what went wrong? Why did you change? I don't feel that way anymore. And it's like we make the mistake of thinking it's the other person. And it's always us. So that's why we have to have a regular meditation practice. So today what we're going to do is we're going to take the meditation of feelings still a little bit further. We'll go in with feelings. We'll stay with feelings for today again. And then I think maybe next class we'll get into, we'll start to go into the mind. These kinds of classes and these kinds of meditations, I mean, you could take one of these meditations and do it for 6 weeks, and get it, right? Really, a person should be journaling. It would be good to journal your meditations and stick to one until something happens, right? Stick to one and go, right. It's impossible that that this feeling I'm having in my leg could be inherently dissatisfying or inherently happy or inherently be like me or something like that. And then you think, it couldn't be, and you realize it, which is very different than hearing about it in class or reading about it in a book. It's very, very different. And if we don't do that, if we don't take the things that we learn and really try to make them part of your mind stream so that it just becomes a normal part of you, by realizing if we don't do that, we're in great danger. We're in great danger of just trying to get one more thing, and we don't ever really absorb anything. And then we're in the great, great danger of just losing any kind of a path. We'll just fall away, and you'd be 10 years later, and you'd be like, wasn't I going to the 3 Jewels to, what was I doing there anyway? Like, I don't even remember. It'd be like that, because you didn't get the juice. You didn't do what you needed to do to make it go in. Because I can only say words, and it's up to you. Like you have to do it. You have to want a kind of happiness. You have to kind of get a taste for it and want a kind of a happiness that is entirely not dependent on your surroundings, right? On what things look like to you and what kind of situation you're in. And you have to want a kind of a love that is not affected by someone yelling at you, or is not affected by someone praising you, or is not affected by you're facing bankruptcy, or is not affected by you just won $1 million, right? You want to have a goal like that and want it so bad that you're willing to actually meditate for an hour, half hour a day, because otherwise, what's going to happen? You're just going to continue accumulating crap, and it'll mean nothing in the end. It'll just be a bunch of stuff that hasn't done anything behind.
I like to visualize an equation.
Oh, good.
Okay, on this side of the equal sign there's enlightenment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And on this side there's A plus B plus C, and then we define A. Okay, A is my intention.
Yeah.
And then B, and I construct my life around these ingredients. It's heading in that direction.
That's nice. It's nice. It's a formula for success, right? And sometimes we have to keep rethinking about why it is that we're doing anything, and look at what it's going to do for us in the long run. Because before we meditate, I'll say one more thing. Like if, for instance, if you don't put the time in, time will, like, most of you in this room have already heard about the emptiness of things, as in things lack a self nature, in the sense of this bell ringer thing, right, is not a bell ringer thing from its own side, in the sense that if it was, it would look like a bell ringer thing to everybody. There's something in our minds, if you do see a bell ringer thing, maybe the judge's gavel, or I don't know, but you're putting it onto this object. And it's not like you can just decide that. It's there, right, instantly. And there are causes to that. There are causes to why we would see this object just in the way that we do. In the same way that there are causes in our mind that are going off and bringing about results that force us into projecting or viewing any situation as positive or negative, right? A song, great song, crappy song, wish it would end, I want to hear it again, right? It's the same song. People are awesome. I mean, like, beautiful person, ugly person, middle person. I mean, who's to say? Who could decide that? Right? Only beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and so is ugliness, right? So this is a big topic, and I'm not going to go into it too much, but really it's the crux of everything. I mean, understanding that leads to understanding everything. But time, there isn't anything that escapes that rule. Time is the same way, the way that we experience time. And what is time, right? Time is also a projection, in the sense of we live this linear time. Yesterday, today, tomorrow, hours, minutes, and we schedule our lives around that. But it is also void of having self-nature, in the sense that one person can experience 5 minutes one way, and another person could experience that same 5 minutes very differently. And you could be both sitting in the same 5 minutes, right? So in Tibetan Buddhism, they say that the cause for getting something is giving something. If you want it, give it. So what about time? Like, how, if you don't give of yourself and give of your time, like, how do you think you ever have any free time? Where did that come from? How could you ever have the experience of, wow, I got all this free time all of a sudden? And what does that mean exactly? Right? Oh, I have some free time. Like what? I'm out of jail for a second. Or I don't know, like whatever we feel confined by, right? And if you start to beat time, if you start to get close to beating that time, then time begins to look very different to you. You know, you could have something that you need to get done, for instance. Maybe you need to get ready for a class or get something done or send off something important, and then you're looking at the clock and you're thinking, oh, I only have 10 minutes to do this. And you start, but then every time you look at the clock, it's the same time. and you've been working a long time. You know, it's still the same time. And then you get done, you're like, well, I wish the class would start. I've been ready for a while now, but it's still the same time. Only 2 minutes have passed. Like it's not like that's a good example of the emptiness of time. And so if you give enough of your time, and that may be simply by being a very, very good listener. That may be just recognizing that someone needs you and just being beside them silently. That may be somebody phones you, and instead of thinking, I don't know, right? I'm not picking that up. This is me time right now. Picking it up. Someone is calling you, right? And if you have this kind of thought, it can all add up to a very different appearance of time for you, because samsara, they say, the cycle of pain, the cycle of continuous being forced into being born, living a life, getting sick, old, dying, doing it again and again and again. Well, there's lots of time in there for you. Figure it out. Like, figure out a way that you can give your time to the point where you're outside of that cycle. So you give of yourself enough, because if you continually to crave me time, all that's going to happen is you're going to get lots of me time. You will have to spin again and again in lots of me time, and it will self-perpetuate. You will self-perpetuate. Because what we're trying to beat in these meditation classes is the you that you think has some self-nature and exists as me. And I will do whatever I can to protect that me and get for that me and make sure that me is safe. And don't mess with me. I will not love again. I got hurt before. Don't mess with me. Right? Right? That me is the me that is constantly creating samsara. That me is behind all the machinations of the building of samsara, is that me. That genius little conniver is recreating samsara over and over again. And you want some me time, you can have all the me time you could possibly ever desire. It's waiting for you. Right? So you got to figure that out. So the only way you're ever going to break that is by seeing what's going on in meditation and then giving of your time. That's one of the ways that you can give. So let's do a meditation now, and we'll try to establish some kind of still point about our feelings and how we feel in certain ways. So your choice, you can meditate in a chair, you can meditate in Shavasana pose lying down, or meditate in cross-legged, whatever feels like the thing you want to do tonight. So now we'll go through that nice process of using our physical body as an object to get nice and grounded and get our mind into the here and now. So begin by relaxing the body, feeling the body. If you're lying down, then beginning to feel the heaviness of your body where it meets the earth, and try to get a sense of a straightness through your spine and out through the crown of your head. If you're sitting, feel the heaviness of where your body touches the seat, wherever it is that you're sitting. Letting go into that heaviness, and then using a nice and rich inhale to draw the crown towards the sky. So you have this nice long spine with this inhale, and then as you exhale, relaxing the shoulders, but keeping that liftedness in the heart and the crown. So you have this feeling of being attentive, but relaxed at the same time. Relax the jaw. Relax the eyes. Gently close them, or you can have them slightly open. If you feel a little sleepy, you can just crack the lids enough to let a bit of light in, which can help. Letting the breath be at its natural rhythm. So beginning to allow your focus to be aware of all the feelings, all the physical feelings, the physical sensations that are involved in the beautiful experience of you breathing. And so this is where we want to gain that witness. So you're letting go of any controller and allowing the breath to come and go. As it pleases. And so you're using this object of focus to keep yourself in the present. Your body and your breath has nowhere to go. Your body and your breath can't think of the future, can't dodge away into the past. So if you keep your mind focused on the sensations of breath, it should help you. Come right into the now. And stay in the constant now, which takes some will at first. So we're going to try and remain very, very still in this meditation, physically, our body. And we're going to try and see if we can use the impulse to move. As a beginning point. So keeping your body as still as possible, of course outside of the relaxed breath. But if you should experience any impulse to move, before moving at all, direct your attention closely to the feeling that is behind this impulse. It will almost certainly be an unpleasant feeling. Examine the feeling carefully and see what happens to it when you focus on it. Does it change? Does it diminish? Does it increase? Or does it remain constant? Try to sustain a strong will to remain still. Just trying to observe the feelings arising. As before, in the felt is only the felt, simply feeling. Observing the feeling without reacting to them. And now we're going to narrow our focus. We're going to narrow our focus to the feeling at the crown of the head. Just about the hand's width field at the crown of the head. Just feel the sensation in that area. Trying not to associate any mental picture to it, but simply feel it. So now we're going to scan through the body, trying to notice in particular any feelings of pleasure, pain, or indifference. So beginning at the crown of the head, with each out-breath, gradually move the focus, your field of awareness, around the head from left side to the back, to the right, to the forehead, and down to the chin. Simply moving your focus with each exhale, covering that area. Finally, ending up at the face. And then take this two-dimensional awareness and expand it to a three-dimensional awareness and observe the feelings throughout the head. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Identifying them. inspecting them closely. Move this sphere of awareness now down the neck. You can visualize a ball of light moving as your mind focuses, like you have a spotlight, and it's moving down the back of your neck now, across the left shoulder, down the arm to the elbow, down the forearm to the wrist, hand, fingertips, observing any feelings that arise, how they arise, how they are present, and how they dissolve. And then, like a spark jumping across from fingertip to fingertip, jump across to the fingertips of the right hand. Continuing up the hand, wrist, forearm, elbow, upper arm, moving across the right shoulder to the base of the neck. Shift the spotlight of awareness to the upper left section of the torso, scanning it from front to back, through the interior, and continue scanning the upper center of the torso, upper right, middle right, middle center, middle left, lower left, lower center, and lower right segments. Scan from the right buttock down the thigh to the knee, calf, ankle, foot, tips of the toes. Let that light jump to the other opposite leg, opposite toes. Allowing this focus to move back up that left leg, ankle, calf, knee, thigh, left buttock. And then this spotlight, allow it to expand now, and like a volume of light, a volume of awareness, fill the entire space of the body. And let your awareness move at will, spontaneously. And just like you're a tourist looking at a scenery in a city or in the mountains, mountain range or something. Just take an interest in any feelings that arise within this tactile field, observing them carefully without moving. Anything that draws your focus, give it more of your awareness. Are feelings of pleasure, pain, or indifference the same as the tactile sensations of earth, water, fire, and air? The sensations of solidity, heaviness, or moisture, or heat, or movement. What is the relationship between these feelings of pleasure, pain, and indifference and the actual bare physical sensation of these four elements? Observe how these feelings arise, how they are present, and how they dissolve back into the space of the body. Precisely how do they dissolve? Can you detect a subject-object relationship? A subject-object relationship whereby the feelings you inspect are altered by your focus? As you look upon them, do they change? And if that is true, if that happens, how does awareness affect our feelings? With each out-breath, release any excess tension or tightness in the body and let your body melt. Can you simply be aware of feelings arising in the body without being immersed and entangled in them? Can you simply notice without preference? If you can get a glimpse of being able to see them without, or feel them, focus on them without preference, you can start to get a hint of what non-grasping is. In other words, can we attend to our feelings without grasping or identification? Can we simply experience? if your mind is drawn to an itch or a certain tingle, some kind of sensation, allow your mind to go there and become very interested in the sensation. Can you pinpoint it in space? Is it locatable? Is it specific to that one area, or is it connected? As you focus on it, does it become something completely different than your first response, your first initial label of it? And see if you can let it be and not decide, and simply open to the possibility of what it may be. And then begin to bring yourself back. Using the sound of the bowl as a way to ride the sound back. Beginning to move your toes and fingers, surfacing. And as always, trying to maintain that sense of that centered place. Whatever kind of peace you may have cultivated. Opening the eyes a little bit, letting the light in, and then seeing if you can maintain your center as you take in more of the room. And if you're lying down, maybe it would feel good to stretch out, reaching the fingers away from the toes. And a nice big inhale. Release. Just coming back to sitting, taking your time. The more that you do any kind of meditation, really, the more that you experience some form of stillness, and it will increase in degrees. The more time that you log in doing something like that, the more it will then begin to reflect into as you go through your daily life, you know, your so-called routine, and it will be wonderful to think of it as you're building a platform, like that formula that you were, like you're building a platform from which to stand always, and that is always there for you. And then you can be the one that people turn to when they need some sanity, right? Because you have generated enough calm, inner peace, and it's there for you. It's there. You just have to tune into it. It's like enough times for you to begin to associate yourself more with that than with all the other things that are happening on a day-to-day basis, because days just keep coming, don't they? You're right, they just keep coming. Yeah, and be good if you could meet it with some peace, right? It's entirely possible. It's completely, yeah.
You said earlier in the first half that something about, well, maybe we're asking the wrong questions.
Mm-hmm.
So can you give me an example of maybe what the right questions would be?
Yeah, like, will this thing provide me lasting happiness? And this is a very good question to be asking, and as these classes progress, we'll be diving deeper and deeper into those questions in a deeper and deeper way, so that we can investigate how it is that our feelings are arising, and that what we want, this peace that we want, is within us to experience. And so then we say, well, you know, is this like, for instance, if you're trying to let's just use an example, like you're trying to develop a habit, say, of meditating, and it's, for some people it's hard to develop a habit of meditating. It's so believable that the mind that thinks that all this scurrying around and accomplishing this and that, the mind that's doing all that has this illusion that it's actually accomplishing something. So it's easy to believe that you don't have any time to meditate. It's easy to believe that there are things that are more important. So, you know, then we ask ourselves, okay, what is going to give me lasting happiness? Is it going to be, for instance, like if you say, okay, I'm going to take 30 minutes out of my day, every single day I'm going to meditate. Is it possible that could be the thing that could ignite some kind of lasting peace within me, or is it going to be the 30 minutes that I spend watching television? And which one is going to benefit me? And actually noticing the knee-jerk responses we have. Okay, no, I you know, I need to relax. And you just go to the television, right, or something like that, instead of actually doing a meditation, or maybe we're trying to decide whether we should spend our money on on something and we're like pulled into it. Like what's an example that I can think of?
Trip to Maui.
Trip to Maui, right? Right. So, how much money am I going to spend on this trip to Maui? And should I go to Maui, right? And it's like, absolutely go to Maui, but like, what do I think is going to happen in Maui? And do I think that going to some tropical place is going to bring me a lasting happiness? Does it have the ability to give me lasting happiness? Can I go and simply enjoy a trip to Maui and not put all this pressure on Maui? Right? Can I just simply go, and maybe I'm going to have a crappy time in Maui. It's very possible. You can go to Maui and things could go wrong in Maui. Right? Like, how much store do we put into the things that we're doing and to give us that satisfaction? Our partners, right? Like, is it possible that my partner actually has the power to irritate me the way that they seem to? You know, is it possible that my partner has the ability or the power to actually give me happiness? Is it possible that is it? And you ask those kinds of questions, and if you just sit down and ask, it's easy. You see it. No, they can't. And if you think that they can, then the next step is you go, okay, well, what's going to happen if we break up then? I guess I'm out of the loop of happiness then. I guess I can't get happiness. Or what if they die? I guess that's it. I get no happiness, right? Or because the basic question that we need to ask ourselves, the very, very basic one, the most basic one, and the one that will set us free, is do I think that this object that I'm looking at is coming from its own side? In a sense, does it have the qualities in it that I think are in it? And that's what's great about these meditations, because we're trying to investigate these things that we immediately assume are good or bad or unpleasant or neutral. Like, I don't know if you noticed, if you had an itch, and if you just like watch that itch for a while, it changes, right? And it becomes something completely different. And if we stop and then ask, okay, well, what is this thing? It can turn into quite a pleasant thing or an interesting thing, versus this irritating thing that you just you want it to stop. And it's like, okay, questions like, why is it that I don't have any, why is it that I could be eating a chocolate bar, for instance? And do I really believe that this chocolate bar is the cause of the pleasantness that I'm experiencing from it? And you ask that question, okay, I'm chewing on it, it really tastes good, oh, wow, it feels good in my toes. How is that possible? It seems like impossible that I could put it in my mouth and my toes could tingle. And chocolate's powerful, right? But how is it that we can have that experience, but we could choke on it and die? There's no law in the universe that says that chocolate bar will not kill you, right? And those kinds of, and why? Why is it that we can listen to a song one day and it is the most amazing thing you've ever heard in your life, and the next day you want to play it for your friend? You're like, I heard this song yesterday, it's the most amazing I've ever heard, you got to hear this thing. And you play it and it's like, what happened to the song? It was this amazing thing, now it just seems kind of dumb. The lyrics are stupid. Yesterday they were so profound. And then you're embarrassed because your friend's like, well, I don't get it. Right? Like, those kinds of questions, like, why? What is it inside of me that is making my world and like you start to ask those kinds of questions instead of how can I make the world look a certain way to fit me, right? And see what those kinds of questions are supposed to lead us to. We can like get the teaching right away, you know, you're like going to Tibetan Buddhist classes, but eventually, hopefully, you can get to wait a second. There's something going on in my mind that is forcing me to experience things a certain way, positive, negative, or neutral. And it's not the thing, right? It's not the thing. Like, what's an example? Yeah.
I have an example.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That was easy.
Okay, like I had a massive fight with my brother
Oh, yeah.
via text, right?
Oh, the text fight.
Just
Like
like,
this-
Oh my God.
The emoticons.
I just lost it
Yeah.
because he wasn't doing something that I thought that he should be doing to make his life better. So,
Uh-huh.
brother, I love him. You have to do this. So I just lost it on him, and then after an hour of really nasty, horrible, vile things, I just went, I have to apologize. This is retarded. You know, like, this is so mean. And I did. And I was just like, you know, this and other things in my life are just, you know, and so I said, hey, I was way out of line and I'm really sorry. And, you know, it was my control. It was that me that was just like, I think you should be doing this. Because don't you know I love you and I care about you, and you idiot.
Right.
But anyway, and it all turned out very well, but you know, it's catching yourself in those moments, and
Yeah, and then the nice thing you could do afterwards is you could do meditation and you could review. You could go back and you could ask yourself, what did I want? What did I want? What did I want? Right? What did I think that he was supposed to do? And why wasn't he doing it? And how does that relate to me? And what did I want? Right? And the 8 worldly thoughts that I think I mentioned last time, where it's just an amazing questions to ask yourself, right? Like, you know, why am I happy? Why am I unhappy? Am I happy because I think I'm getting what I want? Am I unhappy because I'm not? All transient things, right? Am I happy because I feel good for a minute? Right? Am I unhappy because I don't feel good for it? Because these are all, we feel good sometimes, our body, mentally, and sometimes we don't. Like is our whole, you know, happiness going to depend on that? Good luck, right? I'm happy. Am I happy because I'm well known? Am I happy? I'm unhappy because no one knows me, right? Am I happy because someone says something nice about me? That's a dead ringer right there. Or am I unhappy because someone says something unpleasant about me? You know, and this whole big plan of attack is all revolved at one object, the me. Right? The me. That what did me want? What did the me that's always getting me into trouble want this time? Right? And so with these meditations, we should eventually be able to take that apart and see that, well, it doesn't actually exist the way that I thought it existed. Right? I'm just this process of this, and so then you start to ask questions like, okay, what is it that I need to do in order to, like, never have that experience with my brother again? You never need to, and then you start thinking, okay, well, you know, am I being moral in the world, right? Am I walking around treating people kindly, or am I treating them, you know, am I jealous of other people, and am I acting on that jealousy? Do I rejoice when I see people get things that they like? Or do I rejoice when I see them not get something that they want, right? And because if it's true that what we put in we get out, then what are we putting in? And that's the question and that's why it's great at the end of every day to take a little review, and then you'll gain the power. You'll gain the power to know, oh, I was just about to talk behind that person's back. And you just start, at first you might be like, suddenly you're acting very differently, where instead of engaging in, talk behind someone else's back that just happens to not be there on that day, you just stop and leave the room or go to the bathroom or something. You just stop, right? Because the ones of speech, the things that we do with our mouth, create so much in this world and in your own world. Harsh words at others, idle speech. I mean, why is it so hard to be quiet? Right? Idle speech, divisive speech, and and this is what's going to happen if you have those kinds of seeds in your mind, those kinds of potentials in your mind, and we all have done it, right? Until we come to this place, when we come to this place where we decide to make this change on how we're treating the world, we're oblivious to it. We're just used to this kind of world. Yeah, everyone's back talking, everybody's normal, right? You do it to fit in or whatever it is, and then because in that time, what's at stake, according to us at that time, is the me. But then, when you begin to change, what's at stake is my enlightenment, and then you change, right? Because your world will appear very divided. People are fighting over dumb stuff. You can't trust anybody, and this and that. Well, people get like that, or. But, right, if you're a lie to the world, if you're always lying to people, manipulating people, talking behind people's back, gossiping, to get through the day, then that's going to reflect and come back in a certain kind of environment. So, but what must eventually happen is when you stop doing that and you stop. First, what will happen is the karma, or the seeds of that, will ignite as you stop, and it begins to drain from your mind. You'll see more of it. But because you've stopped, and because you're beginning to understand that I'm projecting this onto the world, and you start to take the pressure off the outside objects and realize that it's not the outside world, it's me. What happens then is all your negative karma then turns upon yourself. And that's a beautiful place to be, because now you go through that intense suffering of experiencing the result of divisive talk, lying, harsh words, idle talk, turned in upon yourself. And then you don't trust what's thinking. You're having low self-esteem. You're divided. You're calling yourself names, right? But you're not letting it out. You're going, okay, and this is going off inside of me, and I can ride this out. And you get strong. You ride it out, and then it just fades away, and then it's gone from you and your world. And so the questions that you ask all lead to this realization that the only reason why that chocolate bar is giving me that bliss is because I've given chocolate bars, or I've given cookies, or I've given, otherwise I'll put something in my mouth and it will choke me, right? If we haven't taken care of others. And, you know, that has to become a fact. That has to become something that makes sense to you, to the point where you actually change the way that you do things. And then you will notice a difference. And it's pretty tough to completely change the way you behave in the world if you don't meditate, because the mind's not quiet enough to do it. The mind, that part of your mind isn't present enough to think twice before it says no or yes or gimme, right? It just, it's too. But if there's a platform of stillness, then there's a way to think, whoa, wait a second here. Wait a second. Like, and you'll start to experience amazing things. Like, one time I was, this kind of meditation reminds me of it. I was in forward fold one time. I was doing yoga at home and I was in a forward fold. And I was just pushing my edge. I was just down there and I was right at the very edge of my stretch. My hamstrings were burning a little bit and I'm just down there and I'm just holding there and I'm thinking to myself, and it is unpleasant. I'm thinking, and I'm doing this kind of thing, right? Why is it unpleasant? Why do I want to get the hell out of this pose right now? Right? But so I just managed to stay. And I thought, well, what would it be like if I could, you know, put my nose onto my knees? What would it feel different? What? I'm right on the edge, and I'm feeling this intense. I just want to get the hell out of there. Just stop, right? But I stay. And then what happens is I just experience sheer terror. Terror. I was alone in the house. It was in the middle of the day, and suddenly I was afraid for my life. Like somebody was going to kill me, or somebody's going to like come in the door and like chop off my head or something. It was really insane. And I just thought, wow, and I stayed there. And I wanted to get out of that pose so bad. But I just stayed. And I just marveled at the terror I was experiencing. Right? And there was nothing around me that could instigate that emotion. Nothing visible that I could, you know, but there it was. And eventually it just went away. And I came out of the pose and sat in quiet for a long time and thought about that. And so, you know, what is terror? Like if you have harmed others and their karma needs to come, it will come in a forward fold. It will arrive, right? It's the same thing as, you know, if you have not been generous, you can work your ass off. And you can put in extra hours, and you can put in overtime, and you can feel broke. You can be getting your checks, and you'll be like, man, the government's taking half my check, right? Or you can get your check, and, you know, for some reason, it's just gone. It's just like the time thing. Or if you're been generous, or you are generous, and you're cultivating this generosity thing, you can all of a sudden, you know, have money. You don't even know how it is that you have money. Your bank account starts to like grow, and you're like, I don't even know how this is happening. You go to your bank and you're like, how is it that I have $3,000? I don't even understand that, right? Whereas maybe 2 years before that, you were like getting an advance all the time, and you're working 60 hours every, you know, week, like, and it's not the job. It's not the job, you know, and it's not. It's what's in place. The causes that are in place, because if you get what you deserve. Because if you don't have, this is their whole game plan, is to try and eliminate the causes for suffering in our own mind, because we're never going to like be able to get a big enough freaking machine to fix the world and stop our like that kind of suffering. We have to somehow behave in the world towards others in a way that washes the suffering out of us. Because if you don't have the causes to suffer, you can't. You just can't. It's impossible for you to do it. That's what enlightenment is. That's what contentment is, right? You don't have the causes to feel discontent, so you can't feel discontent. It doesn't matter whether someone is drilling into your teeth. You can't feel discontent. You're like, all right, okay. You can't. It's impossible, actually.
Nelson Mandela.
Yeah. And you know what? He's a great example. And there's many great examples. And it doesn't have to be, there's probably many Nelson Mandelas around that no one knows about, right? It doesn't have to be it can be you, just with many small actions during the day, every single little thing you do, right? It's like, it's very convincing, right? How, like heat, warmth. Where does warmth come from? Is it the winter jacket? Yeah, it's a winter jacket. Yeah, it was a good $90 Tommy Hilfiger jacket. It keeps me warm. It's the jacket, right? Or did you make sure somebody was warm? There is no Tommy Hilfiger jacket in the world that can stop you from getting chilly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this is the question that we need to ask, those kinds of things. Does the object have that kind of power that I'm giving it, that I am assuming it to have? No. And you can prove it to yourself that it doesn't by simply asking those kinds of questions. And hopefully acting on them. I was walking down the street one day and someone walked up to me and said, "Are you John?" I said, "Yeah. I have $50 for you." I don't know what? And he says, "Yeah, I was in your class like 2 years ago, and I he's bugging me ever since. I never donated."
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, right? You know, or I've put in a full day's work and gotten a speeding ticket. Right? And we think that, you know, we're going to put these hours, and then I'm going to add these hours will add up to this amount of money, and I will get that money. And that is how I got that money, and that's how I'll keep that money. That's not like that. It's just not the way it works. It can get taken from you like that. Just like that, and you're down to zero. Or just like that, and it's doubled. And it's not, you can be comfy there. You can be very comfy there. It's like, you can get so comfortable there. Like, for instance, I work in construction, and I'm often standing on a high wall, right? Like maybe 30 stories up, and I'm walking on a wall, and we're pouring concrete into this form, and there's nothing, right? There's no way to strap in. It's like the safety equipment is more dangerous than, right? Because you don't have any mobility. And I do that probably once a week. I'm doing something like that, and I'm carrying a heavy thing, and I'm just like, and you can get so comfortable with the way things are appearing to you that you can have the thought in your mind, I wonder if my karma is going to keep me up here today. And not think, Is the wall sturdy? Is the wall going to break? Is the scaffolding going to fall apart? Is the pump going to do something crazy? You think, well, I have the virtue to stay on this wall, or I don't. And you can count on that. That's the only thing that you can actually count on. Because there's no way of guaranteeing that something's going to... You can't... You could go out there tonight and your car won't start. There's no... Right? It's like, okay, you go up to your car and you can think, well, I've given rides or I haven't, right? I've gotten people to where they need to go or I haven't. And if I haven't enough, well, this car sure as heck ain't going to get me anywhere. You can be like that, and you can get comfortable there. And then you'll be like, the next time someone asks you for $2, you'll be like, thank you. Thank you, it's $2, here's 4. Yeah, it's absolutely, like you just, boom, comes right out. Right? Someone gives you 10, you just, boom, here, take it. And next thing you know, you have 20, you don't know where it came from. Yeah, that's the way it goes, you know. Or the other day I was working, like, okay, on the job site I'm always doing things like trying to find how I can protect life on the job site. And it's so simple, it's so easy and at work, because there's always 2x4s with the nails sticking up. People are doing this for me all the time. Here, so, well, great, and it's great because it's anonymous. You're protecting life by, okay, here is a danger. I turn it over and put it somewhere where no one will walk. So it's an anonymous protection of life, right? And I do that all the time. The other day, I was climbing over a wall, and I came over, and there was a low 2x4, and I kind of had to go under it, and I felt this little like scratch, like a little scratch. What was that? And then I looked back, and somehow there was a big screw that was about this long that was pointing out of a 2x4, and I broke it off with my skin.
What?
I didn't feel a thing. It made a little red mark. And I just felt like I just, like that. Right? Explain that to me. Right? If you protect life enough, you can walk into chaos and not get hurt. But if you don't, you know, twist your ankle on a nice straight road. Yeah. Yeah. So that's enough. Like, for some reason, my boss is always buying us lunch now. And now, at first it was burgers, but now it's East is East.
Wow.
I don't know. He's like,
That's nice.
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, somehow I managed to go from extremely, like, crazy environment, like, this is the same job. I've been doing the same job for 20 years. I've been to some crazy mad environment of yelling bosses and getting hurt, and body stiff, and no money, getting advances, like doing the same job. I got a beautiful, like, angelic boss, beautiful crew. It's really quiet. I don't have money problems right now. Right?
Self-existent table.
Right. You're right. And it's not. I'm doing the same thing. It's not the job. I'm doing exactly the same job, actually. Yeah. I just take as much time off as I want to. Yeah, I'm gonna take off for 35 days now. Gonna go meditate in the woods for a while. Okay, Johnny. See you when you get back. Yeah, like that. Um, you just have to put the causes into place. That's all, right? And how you do that is you stop with your brother. You go, wait a second. And then not only do you apologize, but then you see you can turn that situation, you can transform that whole situation into Felix's equation for success. You can take it and go, okay, and meditate on what did I want? What did I want out of there? What kind of power? What did I need? What did I think that I needed? And then you realize, oh, I never needed that. I never needed that. It was never going to give me what I thought it was going to give me. And you think, well, how could I have done it differently? Or if I hadn't have apologized, if I hadn't have stopped that, what would that have brought me? And how, maybe what will I do different next time? Or like, how should I see my brother? You know, those kinds of things. And then you can take that situation and jujitsu it into a path to your freedom by just relooking at it with honesty. And that's it. Then you just change it. And you can do that with everything in your life. And then each situation becomes a formula for success, for your freedom, by simply asking the right questions. Okay, I've talked enough. So let's just close our eyes, and we'll close the class with just a short, very, very short touch in. This will be very quick. Just being with your body, relaxing the body. I'm going to say, turn inward. The place where you want to be in your meditation practice is getting so good at stilling your mind that as soon as you think turn inward, you turn inward. To the point where you can be at the office or at your construction site or riding your bike or on the bus or whatever it is that you may be doing. And you can say to yourself, turn inward. And you turn inward in a sense with your eyes open. Especially if you notice that you're getting pulled, you're getting pulled by a situation, you're starting to get panicky and you're starting, what should I do, what should I do? You just turn inward and you just drop that hot potato and you just turn inward and relax and start to look at it with this peace that you've been working on every day. You're building a touchstone, a platform. So just use the breath, use the body to just focus there. And then just begin to think of the people in your life. The ones that are close to you, that you see daily. Maybe not daily. Maybe they're just they're close to you and you haven't seen them for a while. But the images that come to your mind when you think of the people that are close to you. And just think that here all these people are, all wanting the same thing that I want. They want to be happy. They so desperately want to be happy. They want to feel loved. They want to love. Oh. To be able to love. To love someone unconditionally. Without expecting anything in return. Oh. Everybody wants that ability. One of the most fulfilling experiences in a person's lifetime. And so see the people close to you. That's what they want. Just like you. You know, they don't want pain. They don't want suffering. Whatever mental anguish that you may see them with, they don't want that. Whatever physical ailment they may have, they don't want it. Just like you. Exactly like you. And they have traveled. They have journeyed so long. So many lifetimes. Always just trying to figure out how to be happy, how to avoid pain. Just like you. So then you just take this moment to bow to that, respect that. Just decide you'll do what you can to help. See, but first I will do my best to have a meditation practice so that I can see when I'm making assumptions about you. Because I don't really see you except through my interpretation. So you just make them a promise that you're going to do the best that you can do so that you can see them in the highest light, in the highest interpretation that you can. And you say, I understand, it's up to me. I have to do this. I may have been labeling you all kinds of ways. But I see now that everything you've done is just to try and be free and have peace and love and be happy and avoid pain. So you say, from now on, my meditation practice is going to be for me and for everybody else too. May my meditation practice bring peace everywhere. May it not be just for me alone. you feel this wish in your heart. Everybody have freedom. Everyone have peace, freedom from suffering, enlightenment for all. I will do my practice. I will make time for it because I must. Nothing else is going to do it for me. I must and I will. And you make them all that promise. You promise them. They need you. And then you just relax. Feel this glow in your heart, this love for them in your heart, and feel that light fill up your body. And it bursts out of your body like laser light. And magically connects to all beings, everywhere in all directions, above, below, side to side. Lights everyone up in perfect peace, and then the light withdraws back into your heart. Just feel it there. Just rejoicing in your ability to think of many other people besides yourself. And then slowly open your eyes, coming back. And thank you all for coming here tonight so we could hang out, do our thing.
Thank you.
I should also mention this before is these calendars that my teachers have made. They were in a 3-year retreat. They're out now. And they have made these calendars, 2014 calendars. There's some cartoons, and there is a teaching on each month has a teaching about a certain yoga pose or pranayama. Don't hold your breath. Is it? You've seen this. This is great. So there, if you'd like to purchase one or a dozen of them, how much are they?
$12 for one, $20 for two.
$12 for one, $20 for two. A very unique item.
I know how many- some deals.
Get them while they're hot.
Get 'em while they're hot.